Welcome to Brainstorium. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning Dreampunk and deeply weird fantasy author. And yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello imaginative people, I'm Anna Tizard and this is episode 30 of Brainstorium. It's also the third in my Alice in Wonderland mini-series, although of course you can listen to any of my shows in any order you fancy. Today we will meet with the Cheshire Cat, who has a unique message for us about writing and about life, if we care to stop a while and gaze up at the tree where he sits, a furry, stripy body wrapped around a knowing grin. For there never was anyone who stepped into Wonderland who wasn't lost, and not one of us has begun real life knowing exactly where to go and how to get there. After some probing insights, we will also enjoy some fresh new rounds of Exquisite Corpse wordplay, where pure randomness and imagination will be our guides. But for now, it is time to once again enter Wonderland. The Cheshire Cat is probably my favourite character in the book and in the Disney animation. He really is the most comfortable character in Wonderland. He seems to understand that world better than anyone else there and is perfectly adapted to it. All the other major characters Alice meets along the way tend to become frustrated with her. They reject her logic, they criticise her questions, and they ridicule the sensible things she says as she tries desperately to make sense of this strange world in which she finds herself. When I first tried reading Alice's Adventures in Wonderland as a child, I didn't really like it. Everyone's so rude and horrible and derisive of Alice, but not the Cheshire Cat, no. He questions her assumptions, yes, but he isn't cruel to her, and he doesn't accuse her of being different to anyone else in Wonderland. And I quote, "In that direction," the cat said, waving its right paw round, "lives a hatter. And in that direction," waving the other paw, "lives a March hare. Visit either you like, they're both mad." "But I don't want to go among mad people," Alice remarked. "Oh, you can't help that," said the cat. "We're all mad here. I'm mad, you're mad." "How do you know I'm mad?" said Alice. "You must be," said the cat, "or you wouldn't have come here." The Cheshire Cat is the only character who effectively tells Alice that Wonderland is a state of mind, a state of being utterly dysfunctional, at odds with the real world, not fitting in with its rules of logic and common sense, which, let's face it, aren't quite so common as all that. We're all out of sorts from time to time. When we're stressed or when things aren't going our way, we are at odds with the world to varying degrees, and we all have the capacity to be at odds with ourselves. The Cheshire Cat doesn't judge, and he doesn't discriminate. He's saying that everyone has their own way of being. Everyone who's in Wonderland is there because they're out of sorts with the real world and with logic. Alice is no better, but no worse than anyone else there. He might rebuke her questions, but he doesn't get angry with her or agitated. He has a kind of Wonderland zen. The Cheshire Cat is also a bit of a trickster character. Being at one with Wonderland gives him a sort of power and elevates him above the others. His understanding of the place, his acceptance, his embrace of its weirdness, its madness, goes deeper than it does with the other characters. He gets Alice into trouble with the Queen of Hearts and is utterly immune to the Queen's authority, her tyranny. He simply disappears when she wants to cut off his head. He disappears whenever he feels like it, as if he's part of the fabric of this place. He is the grin that lingers in the treetops for as long as he fancies, observing, laughing at the ridiculousness of it all, but thoroughly unbothered by it. Just a bit cheeky and rather wise as well. The Cheshire Cat has some rather grounded and sensible things to say if you look at them as philosophical statements. When Alice is lost and begs him which direction she should go, he says, "That depends a good deal on where you want to get to." "I don't much care where," said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat. "So long as I get somewhere," Alice added as an explanation. "Oh, you're sure to do that," said the cat, "if you only walk long enough." Literally and metaphorically, if you don't know or care which way you're going, it doesn't really matter where you go. Things will happen to us. Life happens. Change happens whether we like it or not, whether we're prepared for it or not. But the flip side of this message is, if you can make up your mind about where you want to go, you'll have a sense of purpose, a direction, and hopefully you can find a way to get there. It sounds almost ludicrously simple, but it can happen to any of us when we rush into things and don't really plan or just let life carry us along like a boat spinning on a river without really doing any steering. We might end up anywhere or somewhere we really don't want to be. But we can't plan everything, nor should we try. Spontaneity, a sense of adventure, or going with the flow are also aspects of life. And sometimes it can even feel like life has some secret messages for us that it's trying to convey, completely beyond our control. As authors, as readers, are we not on some level seekers after these secret messages, these potential meanings, the patterns that underlie it all? As a discovery writer, I pretty much always begin drafting a story without any plotline. Lots of writers find it helpful to know in advance all the steps of the story, but for me, that dulls my creative urge to explore and to listen. To me, each story has its own pulse, its own secret intent that I'm trying to discover as I draft out my ideas. I'm halfway between making a pathway and discovering it. But after my initial explorations, there comes a point where I must sit back and decide what I think this story wants to be and where it's going. Who the protagonist is and what their fears and obstacles are is usually the first main decision or discovery. It's somewhere between the two. But the very next one must be, how does it end? Even if I don't know much about the journey the character must go through to get there, knowing the destination really helps crystallise all sorts of things, including how I should go back and adapt the beginning. For the beginning contains a seed of the ending, the promise and the threat of what's to come. I'm not looking for an exact map at this stage, just a signpost to tell me the destination. But that's all I need as a discovery writer to move past the initial rough sketches of scenes and ideas, and to forge a pathway for the protagonist. Understanding the nature of her struggle and knowing her final destination, my mental compass is pointed and I have a sense of where I'm going, even if I can't see the twists and turns in the path yet. Part of my challenge as an author is psychological. I have to trust my imagination, my subconscious mind, to fill in the gaps that make up the journey between the beginning and the end. The winding path of the story, the many forks in the road that will surprise me at first, so they'll definitely surprise my readers. And I never publish anything that hasn't surprised me at least twice. That's my personal publishing policy. So as authors and imaginative people, let's be a bit more like the Cheshire Cat. Not seeing our journey as a battle or a source of frustration. Instead, accepting, as much as we can, realistically, that perhaps we're all a bit at sea. We're all at odds with life sometimes, and at odds with that story we've just started drafting and can't work out how to finish. But if we have a sense of purpose in what we're doing, then we have a signpost to look to when we've lost our way. Now, before we move on to Exquisite Corpse gameplay, I want to share with you another publishing opportunity I've come across on the World Wide Web. Fanatical magazine is looking for unpublished sci-fi, fantasy and horror stories between 2,000 and 6,000 words. At the time of recording, they say they pay £20 per accepted story, and they are open for submissions all year round. For more information, visit fanaticalmag.com. That's fanaticalmag.com. As always, check the terms and conditions of publishing before you submit your work anywhere. Right, as the Cheshire Cat fades from the tree, his stripes spiralling into the air, leaving only a white grin, let us open up our imaginations to new story possibilities. It is time to see what lies within the socks of destiny. That's right. Exquisite Corpse works by mixing words together into a randomised sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. You can join in and send me words on my play page at annatizard.com. I jot them down on slips of paper and they enter the socks of destiny. 3 socks for the 3 word types. Right, so our first describing word is, let's see, this is from, it's a Twitter ID, Captain Random 10, and the word is cantankerous. Right, let's find our first noun. This is from me. Ghost. Ooh, a cantankerous ghost. Right, let's try an action. This is from Fraser Armitage. Succumbed to. Okay, let's try another describing word. This is from Anonymous. Risky. Okay, and our final word is from Margaret Homisham. Fox. What is a risky fox? These are interesting describing word noun combinations, I'm liking them very much. But let's look at the whole Exquisite Corpse and see what it suggests to us. The cantankerous ghost succumbed to the risky fox. I wonder what that could mean. We have a bad-tempered ghost on the one hand and an animal on the other. Funny that it's a nocturnal animal since we're talking about a ghost. So they share the same realm, even if that's just the realm of night. What's risky about the fox, I wonder? Maybe it's something to do with the risks of having a physical body, of being alive. You can be harmed if you're alive, whereas a ghost, grumpy or not, cannot die again. Maybe there's another way in which the fox is risky, either to itself or to the ghost. Foxes are opportunistic. They have a bad reputation in the countryside because when they find their kill, they kill everything in their path and they leave most of it behind. But that's because they actually prefer their meat to be gamey, so their intending or their instinct is to kill everything in their path, leave it, and then come back to it. I think quite a few people don't really understand that. They just think they're kind of murderous creatures. Foxes have a set route, and if we believe in ghosts, even just as a make-believe, let's make believe in ghosts, they tend to be attached to a particular place. Ghosts that can move around, I imagine, would stick to the same route. It's about not being able to let go, or it might be that an object or a living person they've left behind, or a habit, a routine, has trapped them somehow in this plane of reality, unable to move on. So we have two characters, both with very particular habits. One is dead, the other is deadly. How might they bump into each other and react? How might they pose a risk to each other? I was just thinking a humorous idea would be, what if the angry ghost, this cantankerous ghost, is the ghost of a chicken that confronts its killer, the fox? But moving back to more sensible ideas, I'm just looking at the middle part. The cantankerous ghost succumbed to the risky fox. I like this idea of succumbed to. It's a kind of surrender. So what does the fox do to make the ghost succumb to it? The fox tricks the ghost into leaving their normal place of haunting, an old house, a bus stop. Why am I thinking of a haunted bus stop? Is that just different from the usual haunted house? So the fox promises something to the ghost about becoming real. That the idea that the ghost can leave its usual post of haunting, for want of a better phrase, and that maybe he'll be able to become real or something like that, or haunt an animal and therefore be able to move around, go to different places, actually have a kind of life. But it's a trick, and when the ghost follows the fox's instructions, he evaporates into the night. Of course, if we want to write something that's, I don't know, more believable to an adult reader, maybe we would make this fox a red-headed man rather than an actual fox, because talking animals are generally not found even in children's fiction these days. It seemed to be out of fashion, as it were. Ooh, there's some interesting ideas here. I like it, but I think it's time for another Exquisite Corpse. Let's see. So our first describing word is from Paul Benfield, anxious. Let's get a noun. This is from Anonymous. Sun, as in S-U-N. Okay. Next, we have our action. This is from Paul Thomas. Jumped through a gateway to find. Okay. Let's get another describing word. What's this? This is from Wicked Words _ Kate. Avoidant. Final word. Again, from Paul Thomas. If I can unfold it, it's got kind of stuck. Warrior. We have a socially avoidant warrior. Okay, so let's put the whole thing together. The anxious sun, S-U-N, jumped through a gateway to find the avoidant warrior. Oh, God. Got my work cut out for me today. I think it's time for some green tea and just to see if that's going to help my imagination. Right. So the avoidant warrior, a socially avoidant warrior, isn't that a bit of a stereotype, a trope that you get in action movies, where you have a sort of a lone, very blokey bloke, you know, he doesn't want to get involved in relationships and things like that. He takes it all a bit seriously, yeah, that's how he gets on in life. He doesn't want to risk getting involved romantically or possibly even having friends. And then quite often in the movie, you find out, he discovers, you know, friendship and, you know, the power of a great relationship. And they may even put together a team to fight whatever enemy there is. And so maybe he learns by the end not to be quite so isolated. So that's interesting that avoidant warrior has come up, because that kind of works in many things we've seen before. But an anxious sun? Ooh. The planets are doing weird things. Or should we think outside the box on what an anxious sun could be? Doesn't really sound like the name of a cafe or a pub. I wouldn't want to go into a cafe called the Anxious Sun. It doesn't sound like the name of a band. What about a work of art? A painting? Or the illustration you get on an old-fashioned map, a hand-drawn map, where you might have the sun in one corner, looking rather anxious, and the moon in the other corner, looking rather calm. And somehow this sun, or the illustration of the sun, must jump through a gateway to find the avoidant warrior, a lone, isolated fighter who's made themselves very difficult to find. It does feel like a map could work for this. I'm liking the map idea. What if we're in a fantasy world and there's the threat of war, and whoever the leaders are of this world, perhaps druid elves, let's call them, they have this interactive map, a magic map. And there's a gateway in the map. The way it works is the map itself can give you a portal or create a portal that can transport you to anywhere in the world. But the only way you can get it to work is to chant a spell that activates the anxious sun illustration or the calm moon to appear to jump into that place. And there's a warrior, the only one who can save them, the only one who knows the ways of ancient magic and who's cut himself off so well, hidden himself in the world, that the only way they can find him is by activating the magic in this map. It feels like the beginning of something. I do quite like it. Right, I think it is time for our third and final Exquisite Corpse. First word is from Andy Burrows. Dead. Why am I laughing? This is terrible. We're moving back into the realm of ghosts. If this is going to be an active character, or is this to do with something that's happened? The second word is from Paul Thomas. Knave. A dead knave. Right. Let's get ourselves an action. This is from Paul Benfield. Studied carefully. Right, let's get ourselves a describing word. This is from T.F. Burke. Intricate. Oh, that works quite well with studied carefully. Interesting. Final word is from Anonymous. Gnome. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay. It's going to be difficult, but it's brilliant. Right, let's just look at the whole thing. We have the dead knave studied carefully, the intricate gnome. I think I'm going to need some green tea. Let's get a top up of this. Okay. First of all, I want to know, what is an intricate gnome? Why am I imagining that it's knitted? Because I just, if you make a gnome, I suppose all gnomes are made, or are they? Now, let's be sensible, all gnomes are created, so it could be ceramic, clay, or yes, I suppose you could make one out of fabric or knit one. I think it was just the word intricate that made me think that. But yeah, they're not, I don't normally think of them as intricate, but this one is. It has a lot of detail on it, and it's worth studying carefully. There's some kind of secret message on this gnome. Oh, that's really weird, because why else would you study it carefully? Now, the dead knave, I had to look up knave just to be sure, because it can be used, it's quite an old-fashioned word, and it can mean a dishonest or unscrupulous person. So what is this bizarre secret that he's discovered on this intricate gnome? And why is he dead? He's studying something from beyond the grave. That is peculiar. We have another haunting. Right. An intricate pattern is painted along the bottom edge of the gnome, or underneath it, or it's painted along the edges of its red painted on jacket. Rune marks, ancient symbols, meaning what? Who's painted this message? To a dead knave, a dishonest person who's taken secrets to their grave. Oh, I think I just rhymed. But someone in the world of the living wants to know, who did you kill before you died? Or maybe their political secrets. Perhaps the most curious, mysterious character in this story is the person who isn't even mentioned in the Exquisite Corpse, the one who has painted or carved this message onto a gnome. A servant who works in the court of the king and demands to know the truth from a dead knave. A knave who has committed suicide, who knew too much, who's dishonest. He couldn't live with a terrible mistake he'd made, but he died, leaving a mystery behind him. And our protagonist knows a thing or two about runes, which, when carved correctly in a particular way, and in the place where the person died, in the garden hanging from a tree, they can force even a spirit from beyond the grave to confess the terrible truth they died with. And their choice of medium, a gnome, that just means that no one else is likely to come across it. Even the gardener won't notice. Ooh, this is rather dark, and there's quite a few different possibilities. It all depends on what the secret is and why the knave killed himself. This is fascinating. Okay, well, let's just have a look at all three of the Exquisite Corpses to see what we've come up with today. Two of them involve communicating with the dead, with ghosts. Aside from the last one, using rune magic in a very unlikely place, an intricate gnome, we have a cantankerous ghost who in some way succumbed to a trick played by a red-haired stranger, someone who makes a false promise. Then we have the map idea with the anxious son jumping through a gateway, creating a portal to a much-needed warrior in a time of war, who's done his very best to stay hidden up until this point. There seems to be a theme here of unlikely magical communications between different worlds or between planes of existence. Curiouser and curiouser. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's story brainstorms and that you found my musings about the Cheshire Cat thought-provoking. In the next episode, we'll be discovering what we can learn as storytellers from the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. So make sure you're subscribed on your favourite podcast listening platform so you don't miss out. Until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstorium. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.